everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be doing this spring page from Johanna Basford's book Small Victories. So today I'm going to be using the Faber Castell Black Edition pencils. So this is the 100 set and this is what they look like. So I'll go ahead and zoom you in and we'll get started. So first going in with 793, which is a lovely pastel blue colour, I'm going to make a start on these bluebells and I'm just going to use light pressure and go ahead and fill in these little flowers. And then taking 773, which is a little bit darker, I'm going to use normal pressure at the top of each of these flowers and then lift the pressure off as you come to about halfway. And I'll do the same for all of these. And I just want to say sorry for the time in between uploads. I've been really busy at work and unfortunately my mum injured her foot, so I've been spending a lot of time looking after her and making sure that she's got everything that she needs, so I'm a bit behind with colouring. And then going back in with 793, I'm just going to go over where we left the lighter pressure of this and just go ahead and mix these colours together nicely. And then I'm going to go back in with 773 and just darken up the shadow a little bit because it's not quite dark enough. Okay, so swapping back to 793, we're going to move on to these bluebells up here. And again, I'm just going to use light pressure and do a base coat on these. So yeah, I'm a little bit behind with my colouring. I only managed to get 2 pages done in the whole of last month, so I haven't uploaded a finished pages video. And then going back in with 773, I'm going to do the same again and use normal pressure and darken up the tops of each flower. And then what I'll do is lift the pressure off about halfway down each petal. And then back in with 793 and I'll just use normal pressure again and go over the blend, make sure everything's blended together nicely. And then sticking with 793, we're going to do a light base coat on all of these bluebells down here as well. So these ones are a little bit bigger, so still just normal pressure, fill these in. And then back in with 773. Again, I'm going to use normal pressure to fill in these top sections. And normal pressure at the top here. And again, lift the pressure off as you come about halfway down each flower. Then taking 800, which is a nice purpley colour, I'm just going to use normal pressure and add some of this colour to the right hand side of each flower. And then going back in with 793, I'm just going to use normal pressure and go over all of this so it all blends nicely together. Okay, so that's how we're looking so far. So I think we're going to move on to the daffodils next. So going in with 789, I'm going to use light pressure and go ahead and do a base coat on these petals. This is going to be our lightest colour, so I'm just going to use light pressure first and get the colour down so we can see what it looks like. Then taking 714, I'm going to go ahead and use light pressure and fill in this centre piece of the flower because I want this to be more orangey. And then taking 722, which is a brown colour, I'm going to use normal pressure and fill in this little centre piece. And then I'm just going to go over this sort of circular line here and darken this up all the way around. Then going in with 767, I'm going to go over these lines here and join them to this central line, and I'm just using normal pressure for this. Then back in with 714, I'm going to use normal pressure and go ahead and darken up this centre piece. Okay, so next taking 725, I'm going to start on these petals. So I'm going to use normal pressure down the bottom here. And then as I come up each petal, I'm going to lift the pressure off so that it blends out nicely. And I'm going to do the same for all of these petals. Next taking 763, which is a really light grey colour, I'm going to add some shadow to each of these petals. So I'm going to start by adding a little bit in here where the other petal would be casting a bit of a shadow on this petal. So I'm just using normal pressure on this edge, and then I'm going to lift off the pressure as you come further into the petal. This one will do on this side, so again normal pressure here and then lift off as you come further into the petal. This one would have a little bit of a shadow here, so again normal pressure here and underneath this flower here, and then lift off as you come into the middle. I'm going to add a little bit to this side of this petal, so normal pressure and then lift off again to blend it out. And this one would have a bit of shadow here from the petal above, so again just normal pressure and then lift off the pressure. And we'll add a little bit here where the petal folds over and just underneath this flower, and then again lift off the pressure to blend out. Then taking 789, I'm going to use normal pressure this time and go ahead and blend everything together nicely. And then going back in with 714, I'm going to use normal pressure and darken this piece up. Okay, so that's this one done. So we're going to move on to this next one up here. And I'm going to go back in with 789 and go ahead and do a base coat on the petals. So just light pressure, add some colour in. And then back in with 725. Again, I'm going to use normal pressure at the bottom of each petal and then lift off the pressure as you come up towards the middle of the petal. Then taking 763, I'm going to add some shadow. So I'm going to use normal pressure here on this edge and then again lift the pressure off just to blend this out. For this petal we'll add some shadow here because this would be in shadow from the petal above, and again lift the pressure off to blend this out. This one will add a bit on this side, so again just normal pressure along this edge and then lift the pressure off to blend it out. This one we'll add a little bit here, and again lift the pressure off to blend it out. And this one we'll just add a little bit here from this stem above, and again lift the pressure off to blend it out. Then going back in with 7, 8, 9, I'm going to use normal pressure this time and go ahead and blend everything together nicely. Then taking 714, I'm going to use light pressure and fill in this middle section again. And then taking 722, I'm going to use normal pressure, fill in the middle, and again go round this sort of central line. Then going back in with 767, I'm going to go ahead and join these lines from the edge into this central line that we just added. So I'm just using normal pressure for this. And then back in with 714. This time I'm going to use normal pressure and fill this in properly. Okay, and that's that one done. So we're going to move on to this one. So I'm going to start with 714 and do a light base coat on this part of the daffodil that sort of sticks out. Then swap into 722. I'm going to go ahead and fill in this little piece here using normal pressure. And then taking 767, I'm going to go over the lines that are in this part. So I'm just going to join them together, and I'm just using normal pressure for this. And I'll do the same with these ones and take it further down into the middle. Then swap into 722. I'm going to go over these with this brown colour because I want them to stand out a little bit better. So again, I'm just using normal pressure. Back in with 714, and I'm going to go ahead and use normal pressure to fill in the background. Then going back in with 767, I'm going to go over these lines again because they're not quite dark enough. And then taking 789, I'm going to use light pressure and do a base coat on the petals. Then back in with 725, and I'm going to fill in the bottom sections using normal pressure and then lift the pressure off as you come towards the middle of each petal. Then going back in with 763, we're going to add some shadow. So I'm going to add a little bit here using normal pressure and then lift off. And again here where the sort of curve to the petal is. And again lift off the pressure to blend that out. That one I'm going to leave. So I'm going to move to this one. I'll do a little bit here underneath and then lift off the pressure to blend it out. And again here where it's underneath, I'm going to darken up using normal pressure. And again lift the pressure off to blend this out. And then back in with 789 and normal pressure, fill the rest of this flower in. And I forgot to do this one, so I'm going to go back in with 789 and do a base coat on these petals. And then taking 725, again I'll darken up the bottom section of each petal using normal pressure and then lift off as you come towards the middle. I wasn't sure if this one was a daffodil or not, so I left it till last and then thought, no, I think it is a daffodil, so I did it the same. Then back in with 763 to add some shadow. So for this one, I'm going to add a little bit here using normal pressure and then lift off to blend it out. We'll do a little bit on this side here, which is a little bit further back, and again, lift off the pressure to blend it out. I think we'll do a little bit over here, normal pressure, and again, lift off the pressure to blend this out. And we'll add a little bit over here as well, and again lift off the pressure to blend it out. Then going back in with 789, I'm going to use normal pressure and fill this in completely. And then back in with 722, normal pressure, fill in the centre. And then taking 767, I'm going to use light pressure and add some of this orangey colour to the middle. And then using 715, I'm going to use normal pressure and go over these little lines and join it in to the middle of the flower. Then back in with 767, normal pressure, blend this all together. And then taking 715, I'm just going to add a little bit of this orangey colour around the centre here. And that's all of our daffodils done. Next, taking 761, I'm going to make a start on these little leaves around the daffodils. So I'm just going to use light pressure and add a base coat to these. And then going in with 778, I'm going to add some shadow to the bottom of each of these little leaves. So just normal pressure at the bottom and lift off in the middle of each leaf. I'll do the same for these ones. And then back in with 761, I'm going to use normal pressure and fill these in properly. Then sticking with 761, I'm going to do a light base coat on these little leaves over here. Then going back in with 778, I'm going to do the same again and just add a little bit of shadow to the bottom of each leaf. Then going in with 761, I'm going to use normal pressure this time and fill these in properly. Then take in 761 again. I'm going to do the same for these little ones down here because these are the same. So again, just a light base coat with this colour. Then take in 778, I'm going to add the shadow to the bottom of each leaf. Then back in with 761 and again just normal pressure, fill these in. Then take in 792, which is a nice pale purple colour. I'm going to use normal pressure and go ahead and fill in some of these tiny little flowers down here. So I'm going to sort of fill one in and then miss one and do the other. And again, just normal pressure for this. Then swap into 800, a light bluey purple colour. I'm going to do the same and use normal pressure and fill in the rest of these little flowers. Then take in 701, I'm going to use normal pressure and fill in the centre of the flowers. And then 744, normal pressure, I'm going to fill in these little leaves around the flowers. Then going back to 792, we've got some more of these little flowers on the other side. So I'm going to do the same again, normal pressure, and fill some of these in. And then back to 800, normal pressure, fill in the rest of these flowers. And I'm going to use this to fill in the top of like these little, like almost like bulbs that haven't opened yet. So I'll just fill them in with the darker colour as well. Then take in 744, again normal pressure, fill in the little leaves. And back in with 701, normal pressure, fill in the centre of the flowers. Okay, and then we've got a couple more up here to do. So I'm going to go back in with 792 and do 2 of these. So again, just normal pressure, fill these in. Then back in with 800, normal pressure, fill in the last one. 701, and again normal pressure, fill in the middles. Then 744 and normal pressure to fill in the leaves. Then going to 790, we're going to make a start on these little hanging flowers. So I'm going to use light pressure and do a base coat on these. Then take in 704, slightly darker. I'm going to fill in the top section here, and then I'm going to add a bit of shadow under here and a little bit at the top. So just normal pressure and lift off as you come down. So the same for this one, normal pressure here, lift off, normal pressure, lift off, and normal pressure and lift off as you come down. And I'll do the same for this one down here as well. Then back in with 790, I'm going to use normal pressure and blend this all together. And then sticking with 790, I'm going to do the same for these ones a little bit further down. So just a nice light base coat. Then back in with 704, again I'm going to add some shadow, mainly to the top section here and then lift off. And I'm going to do a little bit on this side here, so normal pressure and then lift off. Do the same for this one. And again we'll do the same for this one, so I'll darken up the top and lift off, and the same for this side. Then back in with 790, normal pressure, fill these in. And the shadow's not quite dark enough, so I'm going to go in with 730, and I'm just going to use light pressure but go over everywhere that we added the shadow in, just to darken it up a little bit. And I'll do the same for these top ones as well, so just go over the shadow again. Then back in with 790, we've got 2 more over here to do. So again, I'm going to do a light base coat on these. Then taking 704, I'm going to add the shadow. So normal pressure at the tops and lift the pressure as you come down. Then back in with 790, normal pressure, fill this in. And then back in with 730 to go ahead and darken up our shadow. So again, just light pressure and darken that up. Okay, and we've got some more down here, so I'm going to go back in with 790 and do a light base coat on these. Then back in with 704 to add some shadow. So again, normal pressure at the top and lift off as you come towards the bottom. Then back in with 790, normal pressure, fill these in. And then taking 730, I'm going to use light pressure and just go over the shadows. Okay, so that's how we're looking so far. So I'm going to go back to these bluebells and I'm going to use 793. So these are like buds, I think. So I'm just going to use light pressure and fill these in. And then taking 773, I'm just going to add a little bit of a shadow where they join to the branch. And then back in with 793, normal pressure, fill these in. Okay, next taking 779, we're going to make a start on this sort of like grass. So I'm going to just use light pressure and go ahead and do a base coat on any of the grass that looks similar to this. Then taking 721, I'm going to add some shadow, so normal pressure at the bottom and lift off as you come towards the top. Back in with 779, normal pressure this time, and go ahead and fill that in properly. And then back down to the bottom piece. I'm going to go back in with 721, normal pressure at the bottom, and again lift off as you come about halfway up the grass. Then back in with 779, normal pressure, fill this in properly. Okay, and then moving on to the daffodil leaves, we're going to go in with 744 and do a light base coat on all of these. And then taking 709, we're going to add some shadow in. So I'm going to use normal pressure at the bottom and then lift off in the middle. And then normal pressure at the top and lift off in the middle. So we're just left with a light patch in the middle. And I'm going to do the same for all of these leaves. And then back in with 744 normal pressure, blend this all together. Then going back in with 744, we're going to go ahead and do a light base coat on these daffodil leaves over here. So just light pressure, fill this in. Then back in with 709, and again I'm going to use normal pressure at the bottom and lift off in the middle, and normal pressure at the top of the leaf and lift off as you come down. Again, so that we're left with the light patch in the middle of each leaf. Then going back in with 744 using normal pressure and fill these in properly. Then taking 742, I'm going to use this and normal pressure and just go ahead and fill in the stems for the flowers. So anywhere where I can see a little stem, I'm just going to use this colour to fill it in all the way around the circle. Okay, and I missed some daffodil leaves, so I'm going to go back in with 744 and do a light base coat on these. Then back in with 709. Again, I'm going to darken up the bottoms and the top sections and just leave the lighter patch in the middle. Then back in with 744, normal pressure, fill these in. Then sticking with 744, I'm going to fill in these little pieces here. And then taking 779, I'm going to use normal pressure and fill in these leaves. Then taking 721, I'm going to use normal pressure at the bottom and then lift off the pressure as you come to the middle of each of these leaves. And then going back to 744, I'm going to use normal pressure and just go around and fill in these tiny little leaves all the way around. Then taking 790, we're going to make a start on these flowers. So I'm just going to use light pressure and randomly add this pink colour in to the flower. Then taking 792, I'm going to do the same again. So just light pressure and add some of this colour into the flower. I'm going to put it everywhere that I didn't put the pink. Then back in with 790, I'm going to use normal pressure this time and darken up this pink section. And then I'm just going to lift the pressure off when I go over the purple. Then back in with 792, and again I'm going to use normal pressure to fill in the purple sections and lift off the pressure when I go over the pink. Then going back in with 790, I'm just going to use a bit more pressure and go over our pink areas again. Then going in with 711, I'm going to use normal pressure and just fill in these little sort of central details of the flower. So just normal pressure, fill these in all the way around. So going back in with 790, we're going to do the same for this flower. So just light pressure and add some of this pink colour in randomly to the petals. And then back in with 792, and again I'm just going to use light pressure and fill in the rest of the flower. Then back in with 790, normal pressure this time, and lift off when you go over the purple. Then back in with 792, and again normal pressure on the purple sections and lift off when you go over the pink. Then back in with 790, normal pressure, go ahead and darken up that pink colour. And then back in with 711 and go ahead and use normal pressure to fill in this central part of the flower. Then taking 721, we're going to make a start on these leaves. So I'm going to use light pressure and just take this colour around the lines that have already been drawn into the leaves. And I'll do the same for all of these so that they match. Then taking 760, I'm going to use light pressure and fill in the rest of the leaf, avoiding where we left the lighter colour green. Then back in with 721, I'm going to use normal pressure this time and go ahead and darken up our lighter colour. And then back in with 760, I'm going to use normal pressure again and fill in the rest of the leaf. So then going back in with 760, which is our darker colour, I'm going to use light pressure again and fill in the rest of the leaves. Then back in with 721, again I'm going to use normal pressure and go over our lighter sections, so around these little lines. And then back in with 760, normal pressure, fill in the edges of the leaf. Then back in with 721, normal pressure, fill these in properly. Okay, and we've got some more up here to do, so I'm going to go back in with 790, and again I'm just going to use light pressure and randomly add some colour into these flowers. So I'm just going to randomly place it in wherever I want a little bit of pink here. Then going back in with 792, I'm going to do the same again, so just light pressure and add this purple colour into the flowers. Then going back in with 790, I'm going to use more pressure this time, darken up the pink sections and lift the pressure off when you go over the purple. Then back in with 792, same again, normal pressure where it's just purple and lift off when you go over the pink. Then going back in with 711, I'm going to use normal pressure and fill in the centre parts of the flowers. Then taking 721, I'm going to use light pressure again and fill in around these sort of vines in the leaves. And I'm going to do the same for all of these matching leaves. Then taking 760, I'm going to use light pressure and fill in the rest of the leaves. Then back in with 721. This time I'm going to use normal pressure and darken up these little veins in the leaves. Then back in with 760. Again, I'm going to use normal pressure and I'm going to take it right up to where we did the lighter pressure. Sorry, not the lighter pressure. I'm going to take it right up to where we left the lighter colour. Then back in with 721, normal pressure, just blend this all together and fill in any gaps that you might have left. Then going in with 779, I'm just going to go ahead and fill in these tiny little leaves here, just using normal pressure. And that's it, you guys. So this is how the final page turned out. So I hope that you like the picture and I hope you've enjoyed this colour along. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and I'll see you guys in the next video.